Nena was from Umudioka. She was from a poor background and could hardly afford 3 square meals a day. Life indeed was very difficult for Nena and her family. Her father, Afam, was a palm wine tapper who supplied the village with palm wine. He had been doing that even before Nena was born. Still, the money he got was not enough to cater for his family, but he still continued tapping wine and selling it, hoping for the best. Life, they say, was truly unfair to Afam and his family. They could go the whole day without eating, since most of his customers delayed payment of the palm wine they collected. Afam was a kind-hearted man who didn't know how to drag money from his customers, and most of his customers took advantage of it. Oga Afam, we don't have money now. Maybe you should come back later. Tomorrow, I will pay you the money. Even when Afam tries to tell them that he needed the money to feed his family, they will pay him no heed and drink the wine. Afam will be left empty. He goes home sad. This wicked act continued from some villagers, and not long enough, a new tapper came into the village, which made Afam lose most of his customers, which resulted to more struggles for the family. The new palm wine tapper's wine was sweeter and tastier than that of Afam's own, as some of the villagers suggested. Funny enough, the new tapper made sure he collected their money in full, and all those who refused to pay Afam his money on time were willing and ready with the cash to pay new palm wine tapper. Such an irony of life indeed. Life indeed became more difficult for the family. Nena, who happens to be the only daughter, often followed her mother, Njideka, to shop where she sold meals to few villagers. But with all the struggle, it was evident that poverty was knocking at their door. One sad and fateful day, Afam went to his usual work, but tragedy struck him. He suddenly fell from the tree and broke his spinal cord, which rendered him crippled. He was rushed to the hospital, but the treatment he got drained the family of their life savings. Her father, who was incapacitated, could not do anything. It was left for Nena's mother to become the breadwinner of the family, which was too much of a burden for her. The result made Nena look for a job to help her family. She wished to support her little family. She worked in several restaurants, building sites, and even carried cement to cater for the family. Nena would go to work on a daily basis and receive insults and beating from different bosses, followed by little payment. This made her sad and fall into depression. Her father started getting sick again as a result of the fall and the hospital not treating him properly because of lack of funds. Nena cried bitterly, watching her father, and could not do anything to help him. She cried and wished there was a way she could help the father. She muttered to herself, I wish I had plenty money to send my mother and father abroad for his treatment. I wish I have plenty money to stop working for these my wicked bosses who took advantage of my predicament to be wicked to me and pay me peanut because they know how desperate I am in need of a job. I wish I have money to stop my mother from working. She really deserves the best. But like they said, wishes are mere imagination. She woke up to reality and went back to her bosses, who also maltreated her, but she kept calm because she didn't have any choice. One day, Nena went to the stream to cry her eyes out. She couldn't take it anymore. She was so tired. How can life be so cruel to her and the family? She muttered to herself. She sat by the stream, singing and crying. Her song was so sorrowful and indeed touching. All of a sudden, she noticed something shiny in the river. She moved closer to observe it. She found a particular golden earring, and she looked at it and wondered if it was real gold. Someone must have left it here, she thought to herself. Maybe if I sell it now, I might have plenty money. But how sure am I that this is real gold? Suddenly, her stomach grumbled in hunger, And then she said to herself, I wish there was food around here. Suddenly, the earring in her hands glimmered, and a plate of jollof rice, fried chicken, and other orishirishi was on the ground looking at her. Nena was so scared. She quickly dropped the earring and ran away. What kind of trick is this? But after running for some time, she came back slowly to inspect the food. Wait though, am I dreaming? She asked herself. Or did this earring just grant my wish? Have I found a magic earring? She said to herself. She looked at the earring once again, and within seconds, she munched on the food. If anything happens to me, no one will miss me except my family. Let me eat before I die of hunger. Nena enjoyed her first meal for the day in a very long time. After eating, she looked at the earring and said, I wish there is more food to eat. And immediately, the earrings in her hands glimmered, and a plate of jollof rice, fried chicken, was sitting close to her. She was shocked at the realization that indeed the earring had magical powers. Quickly, she ate the food, and a beautiful thought entered her head. What if I asked this beautiful magical earring for money? Maybe it might grant me my wish. And quickly, she held the earrings in her hand and said, I wish I had money in my hands. And suddenly, bundles of money were everywhere. Immediately, she packed the money and took her earrings home. She hid the earrings where no one could see it at home. Immediately, she went to the hospital and paid off her father's debt. Sooner than later, Nena became popular among the villagers. Nena kept making several wishes with the earring, and it granted them all to her. She wished for a box of jewelries, which was given to her. In just a month, she was able to move her parents from their thatched home to a beautiful duplex. Her parents, who were worried how their only child could afford such luxury, asked her with concern, My daughter, it is not as though we are sounding ungrateful, but we are worried about your source of wealth. You know we are poor, and all of a sudden you have become so rich to the extent that you moved us from a thatched home to a beautiful duplex. You even stopped your mother from working because you are not paying her. My hospital bills has been cleared. As your parents, we really want to know the source of your income. Did you kill somebody? God forbid, Papa. God forbid, Mama. Why will you say such a thing? No, my daughter, I know we trained you well. You cannot do that. So, how did you get all this money? Nena lied to her parents. Papa, Mama, I met a long-time friend who introduced me to a business, which made her parents to be happy. At least, finally, they know their daughter's source of income. And they didn't question her further. Nena paid for her father to be flown outside the country to get full surgical treatment, and within months, no one could recognize Nena again in the village. Nena drove the most luxurious cars and cruised around the village. Her former bosses would see her driving around town, and their mouths would reach the ground. Nena started helping people. Anytime someone came to meet her for help, she was always willing to help. In fact, she even went to the hospital and paid off bills of most of the medical patients who couldn't afford to pay their bills. Nena's name was now flying among the villagers as Nena, our helper. Everyone loved Nena and life was okay. But in this life, not everyone will love you. Her greedy personal maid, Chiamaka, was so jealous of her madam Nena. She swore to find out what made her madam a millionaire. One day, as she continued to watch Nena closely, at midnight, Nena shut the door, making wish for cash to appear in her hands with the magical earring. But before Nena made the wish, she looked around to make sure that no one was watching. Unknown to her, Chiamaka was peeping from a keyhole of her room door and saw everything, even where she hid the earring. So this is how my madam has been making all her money. Now I will deal with her I am going to steal that earring and I'll be as rich as she is. No more being a personal PA. After some days, Chiamaka went to clean Nnena's room and then she stole the earrings and ran away to her mother's village where no one could find her. There, she locked up the door and made wish with the earring. She looked at the earring and wished for money. I want plenty money that will fill this whole room. I want to be richer than my madam. Instead of the plenty money she wished for, a mighty snake appeared from nowhere. Scared of her life, she tried to run, but she couldn't run because she was stuck in one place. The mighty snake ate her up, and that was the end of Chiamaka. Unknown to greedy Chiamaka, Nnenna had long before then made a wish with the earring that whosoever stole the earring from her would get their worst nightmare delivered to them if they wish upon the earrings, and the powers of the earrings will immediately be transferred to her, rendering the earrings useless and giving Nnenna its full power. So when Nnenna couldn't find the earring or Chiamaka, she knew what had happened. After all I did for Chiamaka, she still paid me back with evil. It was later revealed that Chiamaka came and lied that she was an orphan and life was indeed difficult for her, which made Nnenna to employ her and gave her the best. In fact, Nnenna treated Chiamaka like a sister, but yet Chiamaka stole her earring. It was also found out that Chiamaka, who was working with one of her boss, stole also from the boss that made the boss to chase her out. That was how she found Nnenna and lied to her that she was an orphan instead of telling Nnenna the truth. Nnenna decided to test her powers without the earring. She wished for diamonds in her hands and it worked. Nnenna was so happy and shocked. She still continued to do good, looking out for people and also their family. Nnenna and her parents lived as the most richest family in the village. She became the most fearful and powerful and most respected woman in the village. The villagers didn't know the reason behind the power. As we speak, Nnenna is about to be made the queen of the village because of the extent of her affluence and influence. Nnenna, on the other hand, didn't know the reason behind the appearance of the golden earring, but suspect that it was born from the sorrowful song she sang at the river that day. So now she could wish for anything she wanted without the magical earrings. Moral lesson of this beautiful story is never treat your workers poorly and be nice and kind to people. Nnenna, despite having all the money and wealth, she still remained humble and helped around her community, even helped her wicked bosses who felt that she could amount to nothing. And do not be jealous and envious of people. Chiamaka's cup filled the day she got envious and jealous of her boss, who even treated her right. She was so greedy and wanted to get all the riches her former boss had, which made her to steal, and she got what she wanted.